Hi guys, we are starting Unit 4 today. Unit 4 is a little weird because there's no math involved. So we talk about designing studies. Basically, how do you design a study where you can gather data that you can use for statistics? So 4.1, we're going to talk about surveys. This is one method we can use to collect data. So we'll identify the population in a sample in a statistical study. We'll identify voluntary response samples and convenience samples and explain why those sampling methods can lead to bias. And then we'll talk about a simple random sample using paper, technology, or a table of random digits. So first, let's just define some terms. So the population in a statistical study is the entire group of individuals we want information about. So the population can change depending on the situation. If you were to conduct a census, you would be collecting data from every single individual in the population. And you guys know they do the census in the US every 10 years, right? They try to gather data from every single person in the United States. Obviously, a census takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, because you have to gather information from so many people. So normally we just take a sample and we hope that our sample is representative of the entire population. So a sample is a subset of individuals in the population from which we actually want to collect data from. So just a little visual, right? Our sample is a subset of the population. Normally we just gather data from our sample and then we use that data to make an inference about the entire population as a whole. So sample surveys are one way that we can collect data. So again, we often draw conclusions about a whole population on the basis of a sample. So when you guys are choosing a sample, first you want to define the population you want to describe. Maybe it's all students at O'Connor High School, maybe it's all people in the Phoenix area, maybe it's all people in Arizona, all people in the US, all people in the world. Your population just depends on who you want to describe. Then you're going to want to say exactly what you want to measure. Maybe you want to know about their heights, or maybe you want to know about their GPAs. But you're collecting some sort of information about them. So we say a sample survey is a study that uses some organized plan to choose a sample that will represent some specific population. And then you'll have to choose how you want to choose your sample from the population. There's a variety of methods that we're going to talk about in section 4.1 that you guys can use to gather a sample. So we'll talk about a couple ways that we can sample badly. Because often, well, hopefully not often, but sometimes your sample is not going to be representative of the population. So we want to avoid those situations. We want our sample to be as representative of the population as we can possibly make it. So choosing individuals from the population who are easy to reach is called a convenience sample. So for example, if I wanted to gather information about students at O'Connor High School, maybe I want to know about their GPAs, but I was lazy and I only sampled students in my classes. Well, one, that's not representative of the entire population because I only have 2 juniors out of, there's a lot of juniors at the whole school. And 2, I teach honors in AP. So those kids often are also not representative of the entire population. So if you're choosing individuals who are easy to reach, that's called a convenient sample, and it will often produce unrepresentative data. So we say the design of a statistical study will show bias if it will consistently underestimate or consistently overestimate the value you want to know. So if I'm trying to estimate the average GPA of students at O'Connor High School, and if I did a convenient sample where I only sampled people from my classes, that would probably overestimate the average GPA because I teach honors in AP. So that would result in bias because my data was overestimating the value that I wanted to know. A voluntary response sample consists of people who choose themselves by responding to a general invitation. So for example, any internet poll that you're choosing to take part of, or, on shows like American Idol or things like that where people are calling to vote in, Those are all voluntary response samples. People are electing to take part in the survey themselves. This shows bias because often people with strong opinions are going to be more likely to respond to that survey. All right, let's talk about how to sample well. One way is with simple random sampling. We'll talk about other good sampling methods in future lessons, but today we'll just talk about simple random sampling. This is a sample chosen by chance. It rules out both favoritism by the sampler and self-selection by the respondents. Random sampling involves using some sort of chance process to determine which members of the population are included in the sample. So things like if you put all the names of your population in a hat, shook the hat up, drew names out, that's random, right? It's a chance process. So multiple ways to conduct this chance process, but a simple random sample, which we abbreviate SRS, of size n is chosen in such a way that every group of n individuals in the population has an equal chance of being selected in the sample. You can use a random number generator, which we have in our calculator, so I'll show you guys where that is. Or we can use a table of random digits, which I uploaded to Canvas. You can also find it in the back of your book. But for the calculator, if you go to Math, Probability, it's number, where it says random integer. I don't remember what number it is. And then you can put in 1, 2, however many people you have in your population. The table of random digits, it's on page T5 in the back of your book, so you'll have to scroll back there. You can also use the PDF I uploaded to Canvas as well. So let's talk about how to choose a simple random sample. First step, you have to label the individuals in your population with a distinct number. So if I have 500 people, I have to label them from 1 to 500. I have to give everyone a distinct number. And then 2, we can use our random number generator to obtain however many different digits we need for our sample. So let me close out of here for a moment. And then let's look at my calculator. So if we go to Math, Probability, okay, it is number 5, random integer. Say there's 500 people in my population, I can do 1 to 500. First person I would choose is whoever I labeled 393. Second person I would choose is whoever I labeled 226, right? And you can keep doing this until you have however many people from your sample that you want. And you obviously want to say that you want to ignore repeats because I can't choose the same person twice. So once my calculator spits out a number, if it spits out that same number again, I'm going to ignore it. So with table D, the random digit table, so we have to label each member of the population with a numerical label with the same number of digits. So if my example I used last time was I had 500 people, right? So I labeled them 1 to 500. Since my largest number is 3 digits, here I would have to label them 001 to 500. I'd have to use 3 digits for everything if you're going to be using the random digit table. So then we'll read consecutive groups of digits from the table. I'm going to show you the table right now and kind of show you how it works. And then you, of course, ignore any duplicates, and then your sample contains the individuals whose number you choose. So let's go ahead and look at that table. It is literally a random table of digits, table of random digits. So, for example, I was using 500 as my population, right? Population size 500. Let's say I want to choose 5 people from my sample. We'll make it easy for this example. So we have to read it by 3s. I have to label people 001 to 500. So again, I have to read it by 3s. So if I start at line 101, and the line you start on is random, they'll usually tell you what line to start on. Let's start at line 101. First person I would choose would be 192. Whoever is labeled 192, that's who I'd pick for my sample. Second person, 239. That would be the second person I choose. Okay, third number is 503. I don't have a 503, do I? I stopped at 500, so I ignore that one. Next one is 405. That's good. I have someone labeled 405. Next is 756. Not good because I don't have anyone labeled 756. Next is 287. That's good. I haven't chosen that yet. And then next is what? 139. Perfect. I have 5 unique digits. Those would be the 5 I select for my sample. Whoever I labeled with these numbers, those would be the people I pick. So that's just a quick tutorial on how you guys can use the table of random digits to pick your sample. We're going to do another example here. Sorry, I just started this from the beginning. We'll slide through it though real quick. Okay, so here's another example. We're going to use table D at line 130 to choose a simple random sample of 4 hotels. So I have my population of hotels, and I've given them all a number from 0, 1 to 28. And again, I have to use 2 digits because the largest, or my population is 28 hotels, so got to go by 2 digits. I just copied line 130. So this is what line 130 looks like. So we have to read it by 2s. Okay, 69, I don't have a hotel labeled that, so I can't choose it. But 05, I do have a hotel labeled that, so I can go ahead, Beach Castle, you're in my sample. Okay, 16 is my next one. So far, so good. Radisson, you're next in my sample. 48, too big, don't have it. 17, that one's good. I will sample the Ramada. 87, too big, I only go to 28. 17, I'm already sampling the Ramada, so I ignore that repeat. 40, too big, don't have a number that big. 95, too big. 17, again, don't care. How many do I have so far? 3, I need 1 more. 84, too big. 53, too big. 40, too big. 64, too big. 89, too big. 87, too big. Okay, finally 20. I will sample Hotel 20, the Sea Club. There is my sample of 4 hotels. So, like I was doing, you just break it up into 2 digits, and the ones we got were the Beach Castle, the Radisson, the Ramada, and the Sea Club. If we wanted to do it in our calculator, which let's be honest, it's way easier. I don't know why I have you going to the catalog. I think it's way easier to go to math and then probability and then number 5, but I guess you guys can find it in the catalog too if you want to go there. So, in my calculator, go to math, probability, number 5, random integer. We're going 1 to 28 because that's how many hotels we have. First hotel I get would be 27, which is Tropical Shores. Second would be 21, which is the Sea Grape. Next is number 4. And then last is number 11. So I got 4 unique hotels right away. So that's just a different way you guys can choose a simple random sample, either with your calculator or with the random digit table, whatever makes you happy. Here is one that you guys can try on your own, and then you guys can check your answer on the completed notes on Canvas. All right. Have a lovely day. I will see you guys next week. Message me if you guys have any questions.